This is King Noble Black Supremacy. And with this particular video, I want to talk about Martin Skrelli. The verdict is in on him. He was indicted and found guilty on, I think, 5 counts of investment fraud from stealing money from one of his old pharmaceutical companies or clients. Now, this is the same guy, Martin Skrelli, that marked up a particular AIDS medication, so-called AIDS medication, 5,000%, with no compassion or care for those seeking treatment who could not afford this particular medication. When asked about it, he showed very little compassion and almost found it funny. It's extortion and exploitation at the highest level. He is an example of white supremacy. The highest example. However, I think that his verdict of being found guilty, facing 20 years in jail, is letting the pharmaceutical industry off the hook. He's kind of like the fall guy or the sacrificial lamb of the pharmaceutical industry. For one, the entire pharmaceutical industry is killing people and it is exploiting people. The entire pharmaceutical industry is legalized dope dealing. It's corporate dope dealing. And by demonizing Martin Skrelli or making him out to be the ultimate bad guy, and then finding him guilty for it, you're really letting the pharmaceutical industry off the hook. For one, medicine in the United States, healthcare should be absolutely free. Call it Obamacare, call it Trump care, whatever the hell. Healthcare should be free, like it is in Canada, like I believe it is in Cuba, how it was, I believe, in Venezuela. Healthcare should be free. Stop playing all these games with the health of the American people. If the government or the politicians really care about the people, they would have a free healthcare system and we wouldn't have to worry about the clauses and the glitches where people could be exploited for their healthcare needs, that these loopholes wouldn't even exist. The fact that these loopholes exist, that Martin Skrelli was able to take advantage of to mark up that product 5,000%, not only shows something wrong with Martin Skrelli, but it shows that something is ultimately wrong with the pharmaceutical industry itself. That Martin Skrelli has been used as a distraction from that fundamental and essential problem of greed, corporate greed, within the pharmaceutical industry. They put him out there. He bought the Wu-Tang album, I believe, for $1 million. Once Upon a Time in Shaolin. And he's almost just been releasing songs here and there and playing little clips of song, disrespecting hip-hop culture, disregarding hip-hop culture, defacing hip-hop culture, trying to vampire and leech off hip-hop culture and trying to slide himself in somehow to be accepted, to be cool, and to be somebody by using his money that he exploited his pharmaceutical clients out of. He'd take it and go and deface hip-hop. This is a fact. To draw more negative attention and more negative publicity to himself. That wasn't enough. He then goes far to threaten Wu-Tang members' life and to show he has goons. And he's ready to kill Wu-Tang members with his goons and send his goons out for RZA, Ghostface, and etc. He was allowed to disrespect hip-hop culture, some of the hip-hop legends, and draw more attention to himself. That clearly has not worked to his benefit either. If you look at him, he really looks retarded. Or he has something, some loose screws. Or he didn't come out that oven fully cooked. If you look at him, anybody can see that. He's retarded. But clearly retardation is no excuse. So that wasn't enough for him to go ahead and disrespect Wu-Tang and buy their album and make sure no real Wu-Tang fans could hear the music. He exploited that. He exploited the Wu-Tang, gave them $1 million for him to monopolize on the music of significant black cultural icons. He exploited them. They went for it out of greed. But that wasn't enough. Then he went, and some people say he bought the Carter 5, Lil Wayne's album. And that he's been illegally leaking certain portions of that album. He have no respect. He's worse than a cultural appropriator. His goal is to disrespect hip hop culture, to buffoon it, to clown it, which he did so effectively, like he clowns his pharmaceutical clients that depend on pharmaceutical companies that have integrity, decency, and respect for their clientele to set the medicines at prices that they can afford. He didn't give a goddamn. All he cared about was money and greed. And he acted like that he could not even be held accountable whatsoever. Clearly, in this case, this investment fraud case that he was found guilty of, he was tried for his very corrupt and disrespectful pharmaceutical practices. Just like they tried OJ for the murders that they claim he was guilty of. And that's why he ended up doing 9 years in jail for a simple burglary and robbery charge. Because they actually held OJ Simpson responsible for the killing of that cracker, that white bitch. Well, in this case, they've held Martin Skrelli guilty for his malpractice and disrespectful practices with the disregard for life by raising the prices of a very essential and valuable medicine to AIDS patients to 5,000, raising it 5,000%. Clearly, he was found guilty of that too today. But like I said, all this is just a distraction to take your mind off the pharmaceutical industry, which is the real beast, the real devil that allows people like Martin Skrelli, who's just an extreme representative of the type of exploitation that is actually going on within the pharmaceutical industry. He's just an extreme version, but there are lesser levels of people doing this. But those companies and individuals doing this are in multiples. So they might not be hiking it up a 5,000%. But it might be 100 of them marking it up 1,000%. So the pharmaceutical itself, the pharmaceutical industry allows for this type of fuckery that they constantly get away with. And he's not getting away with fucking over the clients, the people that count. Disregarding human life with a smirk on his face. He's not being locked up for that, which should be the verdict. He's getting locked up for frauding investors, business associates. Really, the whole pharmaceutical industry needs to be put on trial for selling dope. The entire opioid crisis, the pharmaceutical industry is responsible. Percocets and all of these different types of drugs that are on the streets. The pharmaceutical industry is responsible for a lot of them. And the entire pharmaceutical industry of the United States of America needs to be put on trial. It's bigger than Martin Skrelli. He's the bottom of the totem pole, but allowed to be a face to let the industry off the hook. If we can just demonize this one person and make the world feel that some justice was served, that we'll go back to sleep and allow the pharmaceutical industry to continue to rape us. This guilty verdict on Martin Skrelli has let the pharmaceutical industry off the hook temporarily, because a lot of you feel like justice is served, that this is his karma, and you're hoping that he get the 20 years, which most likely he won't. But justice has not been served as long as that pharmaceutical monster continues to exist, to allow these different loopholes and glitches and allow these greedy devils to continue to capitalize at the price of the health of the average American who depend on that system and those services, which is killing them anyway, with all the different side effects and denatured products that they distribute in. Whole nother video. This King Noble Black Supremacy. Join my website, www.kingnobleuncensored.com. Subscribe to my new YouTube page right now, King Noble Guru. Hit the subscribe button right now. Also, hit the like and hit the notification button, the bell, so that every time I put up a new video, you can be notified to be up on what's presently going on with the Black Supremacist movement. Also, follow me on Instagram at King Noble Uncensored. .c.o.m. Black Supremacy.